you're caught in it. Your customers are caught in it. Your people across the border are caught in it.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%. Well, I think the biggest thing is it's hard to make a decision. I was chatting with the guys on this past evening. Like, they're going through decisions they got to make, and I feel it's the same. It's like, okay, in order to move forward, you have to continually make more decisions. But then when everybody's changing everything all the time, what do? You have to do something.
You're just joining us now.
And you want to, oh, sorry. Yeah. Hey, if you're just joining us now, we're just having a conversation. So just join us on that conversation. We're just chatting about life, to be honest. Ups and downs, challenges, and the world we were facing. So thanks for joining us today. Yeah, I believe, I don't know, honestly. Some days I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm just trying to see what God has around the corner. You know, Sometimes it's hard to see that.
I was thinking about a verse that's in the Proverbs, and it talks about that the man makes his plans, and God directs his path.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating for us.
Yeah.
We're making our plans, and we're saying, this is the direction I'm going in, and it doesn't seem to be going that way. But God's plan is still there.
Is it frustrating for us? Would Max, would you say it's frustrating for you?
It can be. It can be.
Yeah, if we let it, but I feel if we are on the right path, our faith holds us steady.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that is,
So there's a lot of things that 4 years ago would have turned me upside down.
yeah.
But today, couldn't touch me.
Well, that is what I see. God's bringing us through something right now. I'm at a point where I can't say I'll never, but I trust, I have faith. I'm, working through things. But there's been a lot of garbage thrown at us in the last while. And in the midst of that, it's hard to see the light, but I know it's still there. And I know, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not doubting, but sometimes it's like when you're beat down and tired and you just have to keep going. I think it's not because I think the biggest thing is like the world says, well, you're not doing something right. You're not working hard enough. Well, I don't know how to work any harder, to be honest, because it doesn't end. Yeah. But the reality is I do know, I know what you're saying.
Well, I'm glad you guys are that much further ahead of me.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Because
definitely
you know what? There are times that I doubt the path. I know what path I'm on spiritually. I know because of Jesus where I am. But you know what? We spent 5-6 years in Wembley, knowing that I was in the right path, that I knew that I was there because God had called me there, but I couldn't create any results. And, I used to laugh and say that the Christians didn't want us and the non-Christians didn't want us. And they were there trying to bring the gospel into the community and to be part of that community. And then I realized it probably wasn't something to laugh about. It was actually the truth. And when you're working as hard as you can work and you cannot make that change, when you can't bring about the results, and really, yes, we plan. And I remember sitting there. I was 2 years in. And I went there at age 60, and I'm thinking these are kind of the last of my ministry years, however long that will be. And God had called us in there specifically. I went knowing that God had called us, and He said He would supply all of our needs, and He has, and He did. Yeah. But we were in the midst of that, and we were 12, 15, 20 people, I sat at a chair and I prayed on a very regular basis. And I said, God, it's just not working. There's just nothing happening here. And here's the problem. Here's one, I shouldn't say the problem. Here's one of the things that we do. We're trying to examine all the evidence and say, but we can't see. Yeah. We can't see what God's doing. You can't see what God's doing inside of Kelsey's life.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and this is a verse that always rings in my head, and maybe because God's trying to say something, I don't know. But one plants, another one waters, God gives the increase. But we can't produce that ourselves. We can't see when that's going to happen. And I was reading in the book of Psalms, which I'm going to be chewing on for this week, just Psalm 1. And I'm just going to pull up part of it, but like reading Psalm 1. Wow, a piece of Psalm 1. I don't know. It's been, there's a lot of things on my mind lately, but so I'm just going to go to, I'm going to read verse 1 to 3. Blessed is the person who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. And on his law he meditates day and night. He will be like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season. In its season. And I think that is, I think God knows when that season's going to be in our life, and I don't think we can necessarily see that. But he says we will be like a tree planted by a stream. So a tree planted by a stream that's firm, the roots go deep, and it's going to absorb, the water's there. It has everything it needs. And it will yield fruit in its season.
So
I don't know when that season is.
Yeah.
And what that necessarily looks like.
I don't think you're supposed to.
Well,
something from that I took is it's almost like the speech you get when you're on a plane getting ready to take off. Like, don't walk in the counsel of the wicked. Don't stand in the way of the sinners. Worry about yourself first. Put your own mask on first.
Right.
Because you can't help anyone if you can't help yourself.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can't. Yeah. Yep.
I mean, you can't share the word, in my opinion. And then, Dwight, to what you were saying, hello, everybody, by the way. I just had to plug a mic in here. So
this guy's name is Kelsey, by the way.
Yeah, we've never met.
Yes, you have. If you go back a few episodes.
That was my other brother, Gary.
Oh, Gary. Yeah, we're going to redeem Gary.
Okay, go ahead, Daryl.
Dwight, to what you were saying about how you felt you couldn't get traction. What's the worst that could have happened? If your faith was where it needed to be, what do you feel the worst that could have happened was? Would you not wake up the next day?
No, it had nothing to do with so eternity's shore for us, right?
Yeah.
So what's the worst that can happen? Well, I guess in the midst of it, you can walk away from Jesus, because remember in John chapter 6, Jesus gives this hard expression. And there's a multitude of disciples, and there's, whether it's 70 or 90, 120, whatever. So they start leaving. He's given this hard expression, and that hard time in our lives where God is asking us to do something, whether there's no results or whether it's just asking us to do a hard thing. And they started walking away. And after so many of them walked away, then Jesus looks at the 12 and he said, will you also go away?
Yeah. Yep. So isn't that's a lot like James and John when they plant the garden? They plant a garden.
Good question.
Or they plant a field and they're like, why do we do that? It's like,
well, yeah, I think I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find another verse, but I think when God's moving us in a direction, we can't necessarily see why.
We're not supposed to.
and when. But at the same time, we know that it's not going to be for. It's going to be for all things work together for good, basically, for those that love Him and are called according to His purpose. So if we move in that direction, we know that it will be a good thing when He completes it, if we're willing to be obedient and just walk through that.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny. My mom was just telling me something about this today. Like we're given these tasks for a reason, right? Whether we're supposed to know them or not, it's not up to us. But like you also said, Dwight, man makes a plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was about a guy who prayed for a bike. He really wanted a bike, really wanted this bike, prayed for it, didn't get it. So he stole it, then prayed for forgiveness. You know, we're not supposed to know why. And you can pray for something and you're going to get it, but not in the way you might think.
Yeah.
He could have ended up with a job that helped him afford that bike.
Yeah. Again, God will never lead us, even in our prayers, He'll never lead us in a direction that's contrary to His character.
Exactly.
Going back, Peter said, Lord, where do we go?
Yeah. You have the
You have
words of eternal life.
You have the words of eternal life. And I think that when we know our eternity is sure. The second part is that God intends for us to plan.
Yeah.
Right? God planned for the universe. And we were made creative
Just
in the image of God. And we're made to, when you lose that where you don't want to plan, you lose that whole sense of forward motion in your life. And so, but you have to leave the results with God, and that's where you're coming at from,
exactly.
Kelsey, is that
Be at peace with it.
we do everything that we can possibly do, everything that we think God's asking us to do, everything that we can plan on our own to do, but the end results, and John read this passage on Sunday morning at the service, and it was that where the farmer plants.
Yeah.
But the farmer, once he plants, he's got now to be patient, right? Until all of the other circumstances happen. They've got to have sun. They've got to have water. The nutrients have got to be there.
And then repeat over and over and over for a certain amount of days.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Until it matures, right?
Yep.
Until the harvest. And who gives the harvest? Well, it's the Lord of the harvest that gives a harvest. And But we can, in the midst of all of this, we can become very discouraged when we're looking and we want to see some results. The farmer plants and, it's gone a week and a half, it's gone 2 weeks, and nothing is sprouting. He's going, was there something wrong with the seed? Did I plant the seed too deep? And he's got all of these questions, right? And what's his temptation? What's the farmer's temptation?
Early harvest.
Well,
harvesting before it's actually ready to be harvested.
Well, even before it germinates and comes up, what's his temptation?
You got me.
He did something wrong.
Well, his temptation is go start digging it up.
Yeah.
And looking underneath and going, what's wrong with this? Yeah. And if it's already started to sprout, what's he just done?
Yeah. Wrecked it.
He's just wrecked it, right? And so often I think that we're that way. We want to see those results. What's going to come out of your men's life group? What's going to come out of all of these things that are in our lives? What's going to come out of your business, right?
Yeah. It's funny, the men's life group, it's never been a question really of what's going to come out of it. This podcast came out of it.
100%.
This podcast came out of it. And I mean, the credit isn't solely there, but it is the fruit of that fellowship.
Yeah, that's
100%.
What a wonderful statement you've just made, Kelsey, and you don't know the depth of it. Because all of this started one Sunday afternoon with Max sitting down across the table from me and just starting to ask questions.
Well,
and then from that, Max and I did that for a long time, and then from that we did one in Wembley. Then we did the one where you joined us, and so when you're looking at it, what was the beginning of that? Well, it was that one-on-one.
And
but
asking a question.
Being able to ask questions, having that open
the question,
dialogue.
and that comes back to a previous conversation we just had on Truth Be Told, is the question,
Yeah.
and that's the part that I had to get past myself, because for whatever reason the enemy was lying to me and telling me, don't ask that question.
Yeah, can I ask you? I've never asked you this question before, so I really want to get to this. But was it intimidating that first Sunday when we sat down at the coffee table and you had poured 2 coffees, one for each of us, and you sit down? Was it intimidating for you to ask that question?
I can't remember the specific question, but how do I live this life?
Yeah, that was the question.
Yes and no. I would say yes, because I'm not. I generally, I was never the kid that raised my hand in school and asked questions. I was like probed, and then I was nervous about that. So, yes, I would say that was a stretch for me. Looking back now, as once I knew it was a safe place, or not necessarily safe, but like, that question wasn't necessarily as difficult as some other ones, but like, it definitely stretched or put me out of my comfort zone, because I don't know, I'm just not that type of confrontational person. I just like going and figure things out on my own.
Yeah,
which isn't always a good thing.
So then I'll wrap up on this, because we're
pushing time.
Wildly push time.
Okay, are we going to split this one in 2?
This will be one, but we'll continue the
Well,
conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, we're going to continue the conversation. But what I want to end on is the intimidation, the feeling of intimidation.
Yeah.
So, like we've mentioned before, wherever you are in your life, that question is okay to ask.
100%.
You are welcomed.
The enemy doesn't want you to ask it, but you are welcome to ask it.
Exactly. And if you're in a place like that, the enemy is there. He's there, and that's why you're feeling that. Do not be afraid to ask the question about where to start, because you aren't born a Christian the day your life starts. You aren't born believing in God.
Amen.
Truth be told.
Truth be
Truth
told.
be told. Thanks for joining us today.